Hello everyone. In continuity with the previous class regarding the components of casework, today we are going to study about the second most important component after person or people is problem. So what we can have a simple concept about problem, or what we all can think about when the word comes to our mind, problem. See, in a very simple language, we can say that problem is actually any situation, or we can say it's a question that presents difficulty or some sort of uncertainty. We can even say it's like a frustration towards a condition where we totally fail to cope up with. We all know that human beings face different problems in their day-to-day life, and many of which are simply handled adequately with the resources at hand. Before going deep into the topic, let's see that when it becomes a problem, or when it becomes problematic, and secondly, when it becomes appropriate for the social work intervention. These two questions are very much important in terms of the component problem, that when any condition or a situation became problematic and when it became appropriate for a casework intervention. See, life is not a bed of roses. It is made up of thorns also. So in that condition, we have to be strong enough to face them in our life, to face difficulties, the sorrows, the hardness, the rudeness, the happiness, and everything together. But when the situation becomes difficult, or it is not able to be handled with one's own resources, with one's own capabilities or potential, then there is a need for any third party or any other person to intervene in that situation so that it is solved and that particular person who is in problem leads a simple life as he was living earlier. There are different definitions which are being given by different writers and social workers, but here I have written in words of Fuller and Mayers that social problems are a condition which is defined by a considerate number of people as a deviation from some social norms which they cherish. What is he trying to say here is problems are a condition, or they are a situation which is defined by a group of people, a considerate number of people, enough to make a statement that it is a condition which has been deviated from the smooth functioning of the social norms which they have been cherishing in their lives throughout. So when a condition becomes upside down, or there is some sort of turmoil in it, it is defined as social problems. In the next slide, I have just written in simple words that how problem arises. Now, when we have seen that and discussed that what a problem actually is, we can even think about that how problem actually arises. Like, what are those different conditions, or what are those different reasons which we will be taking up in the further slide. Let's see how problem arises. See, problems simply arises from some need, or we can say from some obstacle, or the accumulation of frustrations, or simply the maladjustments. We can even say that sometimes all these factors together threaten, or they has already attacked the adequacy of the person's living situation or the effectiveness of his efforts to deal with it. That is, in simple terms, when a person fails to solve the problem, or when a person fails to fulfill some sort of needs, or he is not able to cope up with the obstacles or the maladjustments, then the problem simply arises. There are different causes behind the problems, how it is being caused. We can say that there are different causative factors which are responsible for creating conditions for the problem. Like the simple one is diseases, defects, or we can even say the deficiencies of human body and mind both. When there is any sort of ailment in human body, or it is being like regarded with the mental difficulties, then there are situations which really make person fail to cope up with the prevailing conditions or to come up with those defects or with those diseases, and they simply become one of the causative factors where a person fails to solve his own problem. Another important factor is the deprivation of basic physical and psychosocial needs, as we have discussed earlier, that when needs are not being fulfilled, problem arises. Another one is the inadequate development of personality. Then there are certain personality disorders also, where a person is not able to cope up with the situation and he fails to solve the problem at his own hands. Another important factors are the internal processes and the external processes. See, internal processes are regarded with the feelings, with the thoughts, with beliefs, and with the attitude of the person. If a person is enough positive, then he is able to cope up with the situation and he can handle the problems at hand with ease. But with a negative attitude, you are not able to solve your problems. Even the simple ones becomes very much difficult and you fail to solve them. Then another factor is the external factors or the external processes. These are the physical surroundings, the socio-economic or the cultural environment in which we live. So this social milieu, the economic milieu, the cultural milieu also becomes the causative factors. And then comes the certain experiences of our life, the past experiences, or we can even say that this distressful life events, they also becomes causative factors. In this way, we can say that there are different reasons behind the problem which really give rise to different problems. Now, the problems could also be calculated on different platforms. Like there are social problems, there are economic problems, cultural problems in this way. And here we can even discuss about them, like different problems with different factors which can be encountered by any person. We can even say that these forms the characteristics of social problem also, like problems related to illness or disabilities, problems related to the lack of material resources, like certain problems, poverty, housing problems, and others. Then there are school related problems like absence, dropout, misconduct, misbehavior, or we can even say the poor academic performance, etc. Then there are behavioral problems, like many people are like rude, they are of aggressive behavior, negative in attitude. They have certain features which define them, like stealing, lying, disobedience, truancy, and others. So these forms behavioral problems. Then there are marital discord problems. Then social problems, simply the drug addictions, alcoholism, gambling, unmarried motherhood, etc. So all these different problems together make a condition where we can say that a human problem cannot be considered as an isolated happening. We cannot say that it is something isolated or we can study it in a confinement. No, it is actually the end point. We can simply say that it is one point in a chain of cause-effect relationship. I would like to mention here the definition which has been given by Clarence Marshall. He says that a social problem refers to any situation, right, which attracts the attention of considerable number of people within a society, and then it appeals also to them, to the people, as calling for the readjustment or simply the remedy by some sort of social action, so that that problem is being solved. Now let's see that there are certain facts about the term problems. Like after analyzing whatever we have discussed earlier or the definitions which we have talked about, we can say that there is nothing like absolute problem or anything like permanent problem. These terms doesn't exist actually. So there is nothing like absolute or permanent problem. Second is the fact is that every problem changes with social change. So whatever the problem which has existed in the ancient era, it might not be there in today's world. Or if it is there, then it would have changed its face completely. I'll quote an example later on. Let's discuss the third and the fourth point. The third one says that the term problem is actually coined by the society. So in society only lies its solution. So this point makes something very much emphasized that we do not have to go here and there to solve a problem actually. When we are talking about a human being, and we all know that human being is a social animal, we have to analyze the problem in terms of social milieu. We have to take into considerable extent the environment within and the outside of the human being. And the last one is that to understand the gravity of the problem, which I have said earlier, that the study of social milieu is a must. Each and every factor has to be counted when a problem is to be talked about and when the problem is to be sorted out. Like for example, we can say that dowry was not a problem in the Vedic times. But when we look in today's world, it has really become a problem. Why? Because people are painfully conscious about it. Today, it is no more being left to the will or the, what we can say that, the feelings of the bride's parent or whatever they want to give to their daughters. No. Today, it is actually turned into a demand. And the demand is forcibly being, painfully being led to the bride's parents. And today, it has really taken a monstrous face, and certain castes are really very much into it. Now let's see what the next slide says about. The last one is to understand a problem, there are different aspects and these aspects should be analyzed. We have already discussed, but I have mentioned it in another slide so that the concept becomes more clear. Like when we deal with a problem, the different aspects like psychological, personal or personality traits, social milieu, economic aspect, and whatever the other aspects are there has to be studied. That is, to work out a problem or to understand it, to analyze it in different contexts, it is important to study the nature of the problem as social, psychological, cultural, economical, and also the personal context of the problem, that is the different personalities which are involved in it. Broadly, we can even say that there are two broad aspects to the problem which needs to be analyzed, and they are subjective and objective. Subjective is the internal one that deals with the feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and the attitude of the person. And the second one is objective, that is external, and that deals with the social milieu. So both these factors or both these aspects are needed to be thoroughly studied when we are working out a problem. I think these two components of the casework would have been quite clear. If something is missing or if you need that I should include more in it, do write to me.